Now, interviews are great, but they're not enough. Research requires the speaker to go beyond primary research and into secondary research. Secondary research includes published statistics, uh, articles by experts, articles in the media, personal documents, books, sources of credible information on your subject. This is where you go to the library, or you get online, or you do both, and you find factual data to support your topic. This is where you get your statistics. This is where you get your evidence. When you're gathering that data, be sure that whenever you get a piece of data you think may be usable in your speech, be sure that when you write it down, that you record the source information. You have to be able to attribute fact claims to a credible source. And so you need to make sure, because what will inevitably happen is you'll write down a piece of information, you'll think, I will go back later and cite the source, and then when the time comes, either one, you won't have the time to hunt it down, or two, you won't remember where you got it from, and you'll find yourself with a piece of information that you can't use because you don't have the citation that needs to go with it. So be sure every time that you're researching, anytime that you're researching, carry a notebook, make notes in the notebook. Well, the way I like to do it is I'll start when I pick up a piece of research or some authoritative source. I go ahead and write out a bibliography entry. I write out the name of the author, all the source information that I need at the top, and then I put my notes about the source underneath. And then I can go back and put the next source and the top and the bibliography information and then the notes I need for it. When you do that, it helps keep you organized, and it helps you be able to go back and you can pull from any of those notes and you know what the citation is that goes with them. Now, speaking about the credibility of information, when you're trying to determine if a source is credible, you need to look at whether or not it's qualified, whether or not it's objective. Do they have the credentials to back up what they're saying, and do they have a bias or not? Sources that have an economic self-interest in the subject, they're making money some way or another through this topic, they're less credible than sources that have nothing to gain from the topic. So you need to be able to discern the difference. And as you decide what you're going to include in your speech from your research, you need to ask yourself questions about that research. If it's a website, does the website have an agenda? Does the author of the website have an agenda? It's very easy to recognize some things are on the web for informative purposes, and they're neutral. And those are great resources, incredible resources. But some things are on the web for the basis of persuading you to a specific point of view. They have a bias, and their bias isn't hidden, and that source of information is not as credible because it certainly has a slant on the information it's providing you. What you're looking for is not somebody else's opinion. The speech is about your opinion. What you're looking for is credible data to back up your opinion. So if you find a fact claim and you're not certain of the origin, if it is credible, seek confirmation from another source. Find another fact or a fact claim that either it works in concert with it or reinforces it. So then you begin to see this is not just coming from one corner of the market, one avenue. This is coming from multiple people. This is credible information. As far as taking notes, I've already mentioned the way that I approach taking notes. Here's a couple of things you need to be sure that you do when you take notes. First of all, always include a citation in the notes. Secondly, when you're putting your notes in under your citation, make sure you differentiate between direct quotes and your own thoughts. If you use an ink pen, you may use different colors of pens, quotes being in blue ink and your thoughts being in red ink. Or if you're typing in a word processor, I use colors a lot to designate different kinds of information. Or you could just simply make sure that you put quotation marks and even a footnote after every quote so that you know the difference between what you've said and what the source has said. Whenever you're taking notes from a source, be sure that you give it the correct citation. Be sure that you're able to attribute it in the right way. If it's a direct quotation, you need to be able to state the name of the author, the source, the other pertinent information, maybe the year it was published, if it's a published piece, and the page number that it's on. All of that is very specific information that comes along with a direct quotation. If you're citing a source, be specific when you first mention it. You may say, according to the Gallup, or according to Pew Research Forum, in their survey of religiosity, they discovered that women are more religious than men. And then the next time that you reference it, you can say, according to Pew Research Forum, da 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 da. You don't have to give the specifics. And probably I pulled that example off the top of my head, and I probably should have been a little bit more specific. According to Pew Research Forum, in their study of religiosity in America that was conducted in 2016, they discovered yada, 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 yada. Very specific the first time, very general from there on out. The next time I reference the same study, I can just say, Pew Research's study on religiosity also revealed yada, 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 yada. So be sure that you give a source proper credit. One more thing about sources. When you're putting together a speech, a good rule of thumb is to aim for 2 to 3 sources for every minute of the presentation. So if it's a 3-minute presentation, 6 to 9 sources. If it's a 10-minute presentation, then 20 to 30 sources. You may not always hit that mark. That it's not an absolute set in stone rule, but it is a good mark to strive for. Remember this, that may sound like a whole lot of sources, but sources give your speech credibility. You can count yourself as a source. You can count the different other people who have personal experience that you use as sources, but you need some expert sources as well. And those sources provide credibility for your claim.